our text today. In the King James Version, this is what it says. Can two walk together unless they are agreed? For a time with desires today, I want to talk from that thought today. Why can't we agree? Lift those hands to heaven and say, Lord, speak. We need to hear. You may be seated in the presence of our God. It's interesting, especially as we think about it, as we've been sojourning and going through this concept of trying to figure out relationships. And in essence, I think that what this clip shows us is the reality that there will always come moments that we will not agree, we will disagree, there will be some conflict. And so there are moments when, in essence, how do we find and navigate, how do we progress through those moments? Because conflict, in essence, simply is the needs of people or parties which appear to be or incompatible or not being met. That happens. And here's the reality for all of our relationships. You will have moments of tension. You will have moments where things will not add up. You're going to have some confusion from time to time. And the challenge is that if we do not navigate them correctly, if we're not discerning in our disagreements, I admit to you that it could be catastrophic for us. There is an antelope-like animal called the springbok. It was just interesting. One night I just happened to be watching the Nature Channel when I saw the springbok. It talks about how they normally are so in tune with what's happening around them. However, there was one episode where the springbok was fighting another springbok, and because it was so engrossed in the argument, in the conflict, that a predator, a lion, was there ready to devour them. That what happened was their antennas was down because they was in the midst of some conflict. And here's the truth. People in all relationships, whether they're on work, whether they're at home, whether they're even at church, in all relationships can get attacked, sidetracked, and distracted. If you're not careful, you can get so engrossed in this that this can happen. Matter of fact, it's what happens with quarrels or arguments. How many of us know something about arguments? Some of us argued on our way to church today. And we understand that what happens in our quarrels. Matter of fact, the Bible talks about this, that pride only breeds quarrels. Can I suggest that a major challenge in a lot of our arguments, a lot of things that we're trying to progress in, is our pride, whether it's in marriage, among friends, colleagues, or in church. And pride can be a fall for us. Matter of fact, the Bible says pride cometh before the fall. If you look at the source of a lot of our contention, a lot of our conflict is because we wrestle with pride. But here is the antithesis to pride, because I believe the Bible also tells us an arrogant know-it-all stirs up discord, but wise men and wise women listen to each other's counsel. I'm here to tell you that you will have arguments. I'm here to tell you there will be some conflict. I'm here to tell you that sometimes you don't know you're in a relationship until you start arguing. But here is the good news. Let me share this with you. Conflict, arguments, quarreling does not have to be an end to a relationship. Matter of fact, it can be a moment to reset. Someone say reset. I said this earlier, and I believe this disagreement should not end a relationship. Many times you don't know that you're in one until some disagreement happens. So how do we frame that? And as I get into this conversation today, as I'm hoping this will help us to grow in these areas of relationship, I really want to change our perspective on conflict, because I believe conflict is not something we should run away from. It should be something we embrace. That I really believe that when we understand or create a new vision, a new view of conflict, it begins to help us. Let me give you three things that I hope is helpful for us as we consider this concept of conflict. First of all, normally conflict takes us from disruption of order. That's what we think of. But I believe a better way to view it is see it as an outgrowth of diversity. That in essence, it doesn't have to be a disruption. It could be a moment of growth. It could be a time when you figure out, okay, what is the next move? How then can we mature? Number two, normally we think of conflict as a battle over position, trying to get somewhere, trying to get something, when perhaps a better way is to view it as an understanding of needs. If conflict comes, it must mean that a need needs to be met, that I should not always look at these as moments where I take it and internalize, but maybe it's a moment where I say, all right, what needs in this conflict am I hearing that needs to be met? And number three is, don't look at it as an isolated occurrence, but perhaps we should view it as being part of a relationship. That in essence, conflict happens. Conflict's going to happen on your job. Conflict's going to happen in your marriage. Conflict's going to happen in courtship. Conflict is a part of it. It just means we're trying to do this thing called life together. And that's what Chance the Rapper said in his song, I'm living my best life. I'm turning my L's into lessons. And that's what I believe we should do with all of our conflict. We should be able to turn our L's into lessons. That's why, as a moment of refreshment, remember what we've been talking about, Noodles and Eggos. We've been talking about women as noodles, being more connective in their perspective and thinking, how everything kind of meshes together, and men, Eggos, compartmentalized. And these differences, in essence, will also bring some tension. We don't see things differently. We're going to oftentimes have our own perspective. But I think it is powerful. I love this quote. Thomas Edward Ballard said this. He said, they say a person needs three things to be truly happy in this world: someone to love, something to do, and something to hope for. I love that. I think that's powerful for us. And if we look at that, no matter our differences, Noodles and Eggos, can I tell you that one of the chief things that you find that is synonymous, that is universal amongst us, is that all of us love to achieve. Our differences come through in our perspective of achievement. Whereas typically men take more risk, whereas women take more consensus. In other words, men and women lead and learn differently. These moments of handling conflict or conflict resolution is crucial. And yet it all is to bring one equal goal. Hopefully we're to achieve something from this relationship. And that's why over the last couple of weeks, I've dealt with communication, I've dealt with forgiveness, and today I'm here to tell you that achievement comes through agreement. Someone say agreement. That's our word for the day. That's the topic for today. That's the thing that I really want to push us today. And I love this because the agreement principle, it's a wonderful writing by a man by the name of Asher Enter that says, there's greater power when we work together than there is in the sum of the separate parts that add up themselves. In other words, there are spiritual things that happen when we come into agreement. There is exponential spiritual power and exponential authority. I'm here to tell you, agreement requires covenant, and the overcoming of selfishness and self-centeredness. Agreement means to meet. That's simply what it means. It means to meet. It's intentional space that one reports to one with the purpose of exchanging information, with an effort to become one in thought, decisions, and in actions. But here's the challenge, and I will admit to you that in many of our relationships, no matter what they are, agreement is not the intention. The most popular intention is to meet to tell one side, express your perspective, and then make them agree with you. That's not agreement. Agreement is not when I come, I'm going to tell you this is how it goes, and whether you like it or not, this is the way it is. That is not agreement. You're trying to agree, but that's not agreement. Agreement is when you both come with your side, your perspective, and you come. And here's the good thing about agreement. Agreement can also mean we agree to disagree. But agreement is making that covenant, it's making that idea that here we are, we're trying to figure out how can we make this thing come together. How? Because we realize that together we can do more than we can apart. Matthew 18:16 said, but if you won't listen, take one or two others with you, so that by the testimony of two or three witnesses, every fact may be established. I'm here to tell you that there is no growth, there is nothing that will transpire in relationships if you are not in agreement. But there's a specific type of agreement. And I learned this not too long ago as I had to take my car to the shop. And I learned something. I love CSRA. I absolutely love Augusta. I must admit to you, though, that we have perhaps some of the worst roads in America. I mean, Lord, it seems as if I attract potholes. Am I the only one in here? As soon as they feel the pothole, another one shows up. So I had to get some new wheels, I had to get some new tires. And so I went to the place to get them in, and I was getting ready. They showed me that bill, and I said, Lord, have mercy. I got to pay for these new tires. And the guy said, listen, Pastor, I know you need new tires, and I'm not trying to take more money out of your pocket, but I must admit to you, you can get these tires, but you're going to be back in a little bit. I said, why? He said, because your car is out of alignment. You're misaligned. Your alignment is not together, which means if you put on new tires but you're out of line, it's going to mess up your car. I'm here to tell you. Maybe that's the challenge, because what I'm suggesting to us is that there will never be any place of productivity or agreement that can happen if we are out of alignment. So the question for many of us, especially if we're endeavoring for agreement in these areas, is how then, what are the factors, what are the potholes, if you will, of misalignment? Number one, first of all, no known goal, lack of shared goal or buy-in. That if there is no goal, no buy-in, there will be misalignment. Or maybe number two, member roles are not identified, or strengths or weaknesses are not considered, Includes when roles are not fulfilled or selfishness in not considering feelings or ways of other parties. Let me go ahead and bust somebody's bubble that in every relationship, you're going to bring your best of you and the worst of you. That all of us have strengths and all of us have some weaknesses. And not learning how to navigate those things and be honest about those things will cause you to be in misalignment. And number 3, plan process not identified to include ground rules for dealing with conflict while going through the process. In other words, many people plan for good days but don't make enough plan for bad days. What I'm suggesting is that it behooves all of us in any relationship is that we need to have a plan, because inevitable there is going to come some tension. How do we handle the tension of the process? I don't know how many people I meet, Dr. Brown, who go into moments and go into relationships, go into situations, and you are so starry-eyed, you're just so wonderful, but yet you have failed to try to plan for the moment when some tension is going to come. It's like playing a game and don't have a playbook. You're getting frustrated because there was never any process in place. What happens when we disagree? That's why I appreciate Bill and Pam. They kind of give some great insight, and I want to hopefully help us, because I believe that we can step forward in agreement. That even if we find ourselves misaligned, that I believe there are certain things we can step. That word STEP gives us the acronym for some things that I think is important if we're to operate as people who are in agreement. The first word, step, or S, spiritual walk. That means that before I can get close to you, I got to get closer to God. A lot of times our challenge in trying to develop others is we have not taken the time to develop ourselves. How is your spiritual walk? T, what's your team? What are the significant relationships that you have? Because you do realize you got to understand, who am I allowing in my space? Because I need some people that can pour into you, because everybody can't take from you. You need some significant relationship. Who is your team? Who is it that you can count on? E is for energy. High-level energy determined by managing areas of importance. And let me bless somebody, because this helped me in my study. People always ask me, Pastor, you're so busy. What do you do? One thing I've learned is that everything can't be important all the time. That you have to be mature and discerning to realize certain seasons this may be important, but it may not be important in the next season. And I have to realize that my energy, what I invest in, I have to make sure that I am doing it to the best of the God-given ability God has given me. And the last one, P, productivity. The pursuit of goals. That in all of our relationships, we got goals. We got things that we're trying to accomplish. That step forward is important. And that's why I believe that agreement brings productivity. My chief aim today, really keep it high level, but I want to help us, because I'm believing that God wants our relationships to be productive. Wherever the relationship is, whatever the status of the relationship, whatever God has you in covenant, whenever God has you connected to someone, I'm believing it's not to be parasitic, but to be productive. So what does that look like? How then can we develop productive relationships? How can we, through aligned agreement, be able to produce these productive relationships that glorify God? I have 4 principles I want you to write down, and I hope that you'll really ponder these things. I really believe that they'll help us, because once you've got communication together, once you've got forgiveness together, now how can we walk in agreement? First principle I want you to write is this: aligned agreement involves shared vision. Aligned agreement involves shared vision. Proverbs 29:18 says this: where there is no vision, the people perish. It's powerful. Matter of fact, if you read that in its original Hebrew, that word vision literally means direction. That in other words, what they are saying is that if we don't have shared direction, it's going to perish. So whenever the relationship, whatever it may be, there has to be a conclusion. It has to be a consensus of understanding. Are we going in the right direction? Matter of fact, if it doesn't, without the right direction, without the right vision, is division. Whenever there's division, there is things that are apart. You don't want division, you want shared vision. And I wonder how many of us are operating in division. Look in our relationships. Wherever we go, someone's going this way, you're going that way. It will not work. The foundational thing is to make sure we have shared vision. I think one of the powerful stories in the Bible that kind of illuminates what happens with division is perhaps the most unique and crazy family of the Bible. It's Isaac and Rachel. If you read them in Genesis, these are the parents of Esau and Jacob. But man, they had perhaps one of the most dysfunctional households in all of the Bible. Isaac loved Esau. That was his firstborn. It was a boy, his mind's boy, he would call him. That was his kid, the one that was all out wild game. He wanted the birthright and the blessing to go to Esau. But Isaac, the mama, liked Jacob. Jacob hung around the crib. He was more her type of fellow. And so this division, this issue caused pain. Matter of fact, it affected their children and legacies afterwards. Matter of fact, I submit to you that if you study it now, Jacob represents, which is Israel, and Esau, which represents those other enemies, from what they started in that division of that home, has now permeated throughout the rest of their families. Because there was no vision, no shared direction. And that's important. Don't get it twisted. No matter what the relationship, make sure you articulate, make sure that you have developed what is our direction and how do we handle it. Because once we've named that vision, once we've named that direction, I think there's some things that'll help us believe that direction. First thing is you got to applaud that vision. You got to applaud it. You've got to learn how to applaud it. Celebrate the way you're going. I submit perhaps one of the most challenges, we don't take time enough to celebrate progress. Celebrate how we're going in the right place. But B, to nourish the vision, nourish the direction. Can I tell you that on this journey, you got to be constant and consistent in making sure you're feeding the vision. Because there's nothing worse. You know how it is. We all are pumped up when we start, but how many of us falter in the process because we did not take time to keep nourishing the direction we're going? It's like jumping in your car with a full tank and just keep on driving, but then never stop to make sure you fill it up again. Nothing in life was meant to not be touched and nourished over and over again. Everything has to be replaced. Everything has to be recharged. Everything has to be nourished. And number 3, clarify the vision. Let me be honest with you, as a pastor over 15 some years, a lot of things that I see a lot of times is that people fail to realize that on the journey, the direction may be the same, but there's some moments we need to clarify how we manage the journey. You made the vision 5 years ago, but now here you are 5 years later, and some things happen. How do you go back and renegotiate? I see many couples crash and burn, and relationships end up dying because we failed to go back to the renegotiation thing. We failed to go back and say, all right, here we are 5 years later, and now we have 2 kids, or here we are 5 years later, and I have a desire to go back to school. Have you yet clarified the direction? Or you just assuming they just get it? You should know. That's what we talked about. And if there is no clarity, if there is nothing to get it together, let me tell you something. If we do not have the vision, but I'm going to tell you why vision direction is so important, because vision direction is what holds things together. Don't get it twisted. The Bible is clear. Without vision, without direction, the people perish. I will admit to you preachers, man, we are connoisseurs of mundane, minutia information. So not only do I read a myriad of papers throughout the day, and it's not for the big highlight stuff. I just like weird, interesting facts. So I was having me read the USA Today last month, and I noticed a story that caught my attention. It says scientists have found a new organ. Curiosity was perked. I went into that thing. I wanted to know what they found. I'm like, this is pretty cool. After all these years of evolution, you would think, man, they done found something new in the body. But what they figured out was it wasn't something new. It was something they didn't even realize they were looking at. Because normally they would look at cells under a microscope and they would view them and see the cells and how they were connected. But they said there's a new technology, this thing called the vivo microscopic technique, that showed there's something they call the interstitium. That they realized that thing between the cells was actually an organ. Something that was connecting the cells together. And the reason they came to this is they realized they were wondering, how does cancer travel so fast throughout the body? And they said it had to be something that was connecting them. And they found out that perhaps if this thing is really an organ, that the thing that keeps the cells together is the interstitium. Which means that's how things can travel so fast in the body. You may not see it, but it's so important to you. Let me tell you, the same thing is with our lives and our relationships. That vision is that same thing. You may not see it all the time, but without it, it will fall apart. I'm here to tell you, if that is not the foundational thing, if the direction is not correlated, there will be no alignment. Here's the second thing I want to give you. Aligned agreement involves shared values. Aligned agreement involves shared values. The biggest killer, and this is not just for individuals, I also believe this is for businesses, I believe it's for churches, I believe this, and this has proven to be true. The biggest killer of good vision is bad culture. And most of us don't want to have the value conversation. Because it's not just having the right direction. What is our value system? And have we discussed it? How do you feel about certain things morally, ethically, spiritually? Oh, we're getting quiet now. See, it's deeper conversations than, oh, you look cute. Or it's deeper conversations, I'm making a lot of money at this job. At some point, you have to realize, can I handle this culture or not? Because if you do not have the right culture, y'all not feeling me, I'm here to tell you that you could end up dying. You don't believe me? A friend of mine pastors a church in Dallas, and they have a big aquarium at their church. And he talks about how one of the challenges they have is that they have old fish, but one of the things he learned is you got to be careful how you integrate new fish. Because old fish produce their own toxins. They get used to certain things in the water because they're used to living into it. But if you put a new fish with old fish in old water, that new fish will die of shock because you did not integrate it. The culture wouldn't let them breathe. So the question is raised, are we discussing those things? Are we talking about our values? As we get older, are we going to take care of your parents, and am I going to take care of my parents? What do you think about parenting? How do we handle that? Is corporate punishment, or are we talking about timeout? Okay, I need to know. Okay, do we on the job? Now, there's some people now. Is the money the final thing? Or are we talking about good practices and principle? That's crucial. And too many of us sometimes wait till we get all deep in, and then something happens that if you would have been honest and dealt with the values up front, then you probably wouldn't have had to compromise later on. Values are huge. The Bible talks about that. Luke chapter 6, verse 31, just as you want others to do for you, do the same for them. Ephesians 5:21, submitting to one another in the fear of Christ. In Galatians 6:2, carry one another's burdens. In this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. I'm here to tell you that you will never have victory in life if you have bad culture. I was reading an article the other day that kind of emphasized that. I'm not a major college sports fan, but from time to time I watch sports and college sports and basketball. But football, I read an article the other day that talked about the new head coach at Texas. His name is Tom Houston. And it's interesting. If you know anything about college football, Texas is a flagship football program. They have the largest endowment in the country as far as athletics. Matter of fact, they have a long history. But over the last 10 years, they've been losing. Really bad. Matter of fact, they fired their last coach, Charlie Strong. Bless his heart. It wasn't his fault. Black man went to the next place and started winning, so it couldn't have been him. Black coaches matter. I'm trying to help you with that. But they hired Tom Houston, right? He had come from Houston. His program had done well. And so he assumed that once I take over Texas, we're going to bring the same winning attitude. They had the best staff, he thought, the best players, the best money, facilities could happen. They had an amazing spring. But then the first game came. They played against a lesser inferior team and got willy-whopped. I mean, they just got dragged up and down the field. And they were affected. And what was interesting, after the game, he came to the conclusion that it wasn't our plays that got us. It wasn't our talent that got us, because we were more talented than them. What happened was we had not developed a culture of hard work. That what he said was, if we're going to be victorious, We're going to have to learn how to develop a different culture, because culture is what determines your victory. Let me tell you something. Your value system is what gives you aligned agreement. Philippians 4:8 says this: finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any moral excellence, and if there is anything praiseworthy, dwell on these things. Aligned agreement means shared vision. Aligned agreement means shared values. Here's the third thing. Aligned agreement involves shared velocity. Our foundational scripture, Amos 3:3, has wowed me throughout the years. It simply says this: can two walk together without agreeing to meet? That he talks about this agreement on two levels. First of all, agreement happens when we meet. And number two, agreement happens when we walk. This is good. Somebody will tweet this. Pace determines the partnership and the purpose. What I'm suggesting is that you can have the same vision, you can have the same values, but if y'all don't have the same pace, it's not going to work. If you sprinting and they crawling, it ain't going to work. Pace is significant. It's where we realize not only are we going at the same direction, but are we going at the same rate? That's why the Bible talks about this in 2 Corinthians verse 14. Do not be unequally yoked. Most people don't realize yoking was something used for animals. They realized that we needed a team effort to be able to maximize our harvest. So what they would do is simply put a yoke on, and they would normally pair up not the same strength of animal. Could be a stronger ox than a weaker ox, because they figured that they would at least help each other. But here's the challenge, is that even though there was one stronger, he needed to make sure the other one could at least keep up. Yoking is huge. Even Jesus says, those who are heavy burdened, come unto me, I'll give you rest. I'll trade yokes to you. My yoke is easy. But here's the challenge. You would wear that ox down if they were not focusing on pulling, but focusing on dragging. No wonder some of us can't say amen today. You tired because you've been dragging. And I want you to know that as much as you want it to go, if you're not at the same pace, if you're not at the same rhythm, if you're not the same way, guess what? It will not work. Hebrews 12, the problem I want to submit for us, most of us are bad teammates. Most of y'all treat relationships like a one-person sport. You think you're playing golf or tennis. Relationships, no matter where they are, involve good teammates. Hebrews 12:1 says, therefore, since we have such a large cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us lay aside every hindrance and the sin that so easily ensnares us. Let us run with endurance the race that lies before us, keeping our eyes on Jesus, the source and perfecter of our faith. I remember in elementary school, Doc, I'm going to need you real quick. Come on, Doc, I need you. In elementary school, we had, my favorite moment of elementary school was field day. Anybody remember field day? Yeah. I still hold the record at FD Blvd High School in Greensboro in the egg carrier. Y'all remember the egg carrier when you had a little spoon, you had to carry the egg and not drop it? Yeah, 2 years in a row, man, I won that. But I used to love field day. Field day, you had relay races. You had sack races. But can I admit to you, one of the races I hated, because it was hard, I need you, Doc, come on, was the three-legged race. Come on, Doc. Now, you're going to have to take it yourself, Doc. I ain't going under there. You got it. Now look, the three-legged race was important, right? Because three-legged race was really about y'all both cooperatively going across the line. Now why I didn't like it is, some people try to be mine. They try to go out without you. You can't rushing off. You drag the other person. Or if you just trying to go ahead and walk, Doc, you go ahead and walk. See, we ain't moving because we ain't syncopated. What made the three-legged race a race worth winning is that you had to get in, you had to first of all communicate. All right, Doc, we're going to go. I want you to go outside foot. We're going this way, Doc, this way, Doc. Outside foot, then inside foot. You ready? Syncopation was learning how to navigate together, because we can't win if I'm in front of him or he. Come on, let's go up again. You ready? Come on. Whoa. There we go. In other words, The only way we could win is there had to be communication. We had to talk. We had to say, all right, this step, right foot. Y'all ain't gonna help me. Can I help you? That perhaps agreement only happens when you learn how to be in syncopation. Synergy is crucial. You never win if they're always in front of you or you're always in front of them. One of the main things we must make sure, are we going at the same pace? I'm done. Here's the final thing. Shared, aligned agreement involves, watch this, shared victories. Here's the Bible. I'm going to give you this, and I hope y'all shout over this. If y'all shout over this, then I've done my job today. All right. Matthew 18, 19 through 20 says this. Again, truly I tell you, if two of you on earth agree about any matter that you pray for, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For where two or three are gathered together in my name, I am there among them. Okay, y'all a little more. Let me read it again. Again, truly I tell you, if two of you on earth agree, be in agreement about any matter you pray for, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For where two or three are gathered together in my name, watch this, I am there among you. Y'all ain't helping me. I see why some of you can't shout, because you understand the power of that. Here Jesus says that we have corporate gathering, we get corporate goals, and guess what? We get corporate gain. Y'all missed it. There's two promises in this text. Number one, he says, I'll answer what you've asked for. Let me try it again. Maybe the balconies, well, wait. I'll answer what y'all asked for. And I'll be with you. So not only am I going to give you the promise, I'm going to give you my presence. I wish I had time. See, that's why some of us can't shout. And why most of us are missing blessings in connection, because literally what God is saying, he's saying, listen, I'm only honoring a corporate gathering. I'm going to only honor what y'all come together to agree that you believe you want for both of y'all. And when I do it, it's not just to bless one and curse the other. It's to bless both of y'all. Y'all ain't helping me here. Maybe that's why some of us can't get it. It's because you're too individualized, you're too selfish. But when you learn how to hook up in the right way and you have a spirit, God, honor relationship, God said, what y'all pray for, I'm going to listen to it. What y'all say y'all want together is what I'm going to do. What you declare and decree on earth, it's already going to be manifested. I wish I had some time. That's why you can't just hook up with anybody. Because, man, blessings really come with the right connection. If you can't agree, then God can't move for you. Y'all ain't helping me. That's why the Bible says this. I'm done. Philippians 2, 1 and 3. Watch this. If there is any encouragement in Christ, any consolation of love, if any fellowship with the Spirit, if any affection and mercy, make my joy complete by thinking the same way, having the same love, united in spirit, intent on one purpose, doing nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility. Consider others as more important than yourself. When you mature to say, God, bless them. When you mature to say, God, bless my boss. Bless my spouse. Bless my children. Put us on the same page. God said, well, since you ain't being selfish, I can go ahead and open up the windows of heaven. I wish I had a prayer in church and start pouring you out stuff. Because when you do it in my name, y'all ain't helping me. But thanks be to God who gives us victory through Christ Jesus. I wish I had time. Everyone standing, I'm done. He says, when y'all come together, when you align in agreement, when you do those things, that's when I'm able to operate on your behalf. Can I tell you why some of us have been stagnant and stuck and you've been mad because you've been trying to figure out, how come I ain't getting blessed? God can never bless you above your level of agreement. As long as there's disagreement, God can't move in that. The Bible is clear. He's not the author of confusion and pain, which means as long as you disagree, as long as you maintain, you know how some of us still child. That's why I tell you, agreement takes grown folks. Because here it is. Some of y'all going to stop clapping when I tell you this. Agreement means that sometimes you won't get your way. Because God will not bless a Burger King mentality. At some point, y'all ain't gonna help me here, I've got to come into agreement. It may be different than the way I'm thinking, but God, I realize you don't operate in disagreement. And some of us keep wondering why we still stuck, why our marriage won't progress, why we can't move on our job, is because you're still in disagreement. And disagreement means you're out of order. Some of y'all need to get on the phone and say, listen, we need to go and hash this out, because I'm tired of being stuck where I am. God only blesses us to the level of our agreement. He says, well, two of you gathered and agreeing. Agreement. We have worked through it. Okay, what's your side? What's my side? Okay, how are we going to do this? And we ask collectively, God, this is what we need. And God says, I'll bless the we, not the I. See, most of us have tried to take that and be selfish because you just want the blessing. But real maturity understands, no, I want us. Oh, magnify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together. God says when you get into agreement and it's aligned and it falls with vision and values and velocity and victories, that's when God can move. You'll never have productivity if there is no agreement. Grab someone by the hand as we get ready to pray. Matter of fact, I just sense it in this moment. I need to know who this word was for. Maybe there's some couples, I did this at 9, that realized, Pastor, we need to get aligned. It may be a parent and a child. I need you at this altar. We're going to pray with you. Release that hands. I just sense it in my heart. There may be something you're saying, listen, Pastor, I cannot keep going through life, existing and not living because I refuse to get in agreement. Come quickly. Come quickly. It could be with a parent, with a child. It could be something else. It could be, I don't know what it is. But listen, let me tell you something. I want you to know God says, listen, guys, I want to do stuff for you. But I cannot operate in disagreement. I cannot bless what you don't come to agreement on. So if you don't agree on the marriage, I can't bless the marriage. If you don't agree on the family, I can't bless the family. If you can't agree on the work conditions, if you can't agree in the relationship, I can't bless what you don't agree with. Woo! You keep going back and forth in the same cycle. At some point, you got to say, you know what? Not my will, but thine will be done. One of the most powerful scriptures that I read every single day was out of 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Paul says just these 3 words that I have made a part of my daily devotion. All he said was this: I die daily. That maybe you're at this altar because there's some things that have to die before you can agree. Pride's going to have to die. Selfishness is going to have to die. Your hurt is going to have to die. That's why I was strategic. Communication, forgiveness, agreement. Some stuff you're going to have to learn how to let go. Can't undo what has already been done. What has to die so that your relationship can live? Jesus had already died. So why are you still letting something live that should be dead? There's nothing more miserable than connected to someone and being stagnant because you refuse to come to a place of agreement. God is telling you, I want you to hear me. Lynn, that's you? Wow, from Greensboro. Good to see you. Used to work with her when I was in high school. Amen. Dad is part of the ANT4 that sat at the city, and that's her dad. Wow, good to see you, Lynn. Love you. It's important. Some stuff got to die. As your head is bowed, as our preacher comes to pray with you, I need you to be honest in this moment. If you're connected to your spouse, I need y'all to start getting on the same page. If anything hindering, move it out the way in relationships, whatever it is. If it's with your child, do not let another, here's the Bible. It says, don't let the sun go down on your anger. I'm not saying you won't be angry, just don't stay angry. You got to make a decision at this altar today. Listen, God, we're going to come to agreement in relationship. And we're not going to move. We're not going to process. We're not going to progress until we learn how to agree. Come on, open your hearts. Close your eyes. Start talking to Him. This is the moment God needs you to be honest, transparent. Come on, open your hearts today. Come on.